We have another colorful and climactic week full of planetary transits. In this week's astrology, a pre-shadow Mars is going to shift into Leo, giving us an idea of what to expect for this portion of the regressive cycle. Saturn is slowing down from its backward motion in the next 11 days, allowing us to feel confident about the hard work we've put in. And Mercury is shifting into its opening shadow phase for its upcoming retrograde on November 26, giving us a preview of what's to come in its regressive motion through the sign of Sagittarius. Given some of the tones and interesting variety of transits that we have currently, the vibes on the graph are very mixed. Ambitious vibes will be with us until the 6th, and mixed with a smidge of psychic tones, mental energy, and romantic tenors. There's a tempo going on Monday through Wednesday where our intuition may feel like it's a little bit louder than typical, and this could lead to experiencing hunches, but also we might have an idea of where we want to direct our energy. One of the interesting things this week is there's a steady stream of family and friends from the 5th to the 10th, which will connect with mental tenors and also emotional sensitivity. So with this abundance of family and friendship energy, it's a busy period of engaging in these personal relationships. Some of them could be face-to-face, some of them could be over text, social media, and that sort of thing, but it may feel like a revved up time for those close relationships. Also, with some of the mental tenors and that emotional sensitivity, we may feel touchier than usual. We may be in our heads more than usual. It could be a time of trying to rationalize things to the best of our abilities, but also it might be a period where we feel touchier than typical. We may feel easily triggered, leading to mood fluctuations. Then from the 9th to the 10th, emotional sensitivity will continue along with romantic tones. There might be a sense of excitement and thrill with regards to our love life and social situations. However, interactions might be weird, causing moments where we might feel overwhelmed and possibly thrown off by things. So yeah, first week of November, definitely anything but boring. Let's look at these next bunch of days and see what we can expect. Don't forget to like and subscribe because it helps this channel grow. Also, if you're looking for a natal chart reading or intuitive coaching, the links will be in the description box below. And if you'd like to support the work of this channel, you could do so by buying me a fresh cup of coffee. The link will be in the description box below as well. On Monday, we're getting a short break from Mars in Cancer as it moves into the sign of Leo. However, since we're dealing with an opening shadow phase with this planet combined with this sign, it's going to circle back into Cancer on January 6th of 2025. So we've got about a 2-month break before we start revisiting those themes of Mars and Cancer through its pre-shadow that it went into, which occurred on October 4th of this year. But here we are now in this other phase of the regressive cycle, the pre-shadow cycle, where we've got Mars going into Leo. And this time around, it's going to have a different tone than usual because of its condition. So not only is this in its opening shadow phase, but it's also being aspected by Pluto and Saturn in a way that's very complex. So instead of carrying a lighthearted Leo tone, this is more heavier than it will typically be. This is a Mars that's riddled with limitations to it with the Saturnian stuff. Also with its opposition to Pluto, it's going to carry some edge to it. So we could be dealing with domineering types, bickering, feeling stifled, pettiness, and envious issues. So these configurations combined with this pre-shadow energy really makes this feel different than typical. In its regular format, Mars and Leo would totally energize us with determination to pursue our passions and take decisive actions. And it's not to say that we won't get that, but because of the conditions it's in, it may be slightly thwarted more so than it would typically be. Generally with this energy, we feel the need to chase our desires. We feel like we're able to maintain focus and momentum, especially with this being combined with a fixed sign, with Leo being a fixed sign, with its passionate fiery tones and combined with Mars energy. It really allows us to gain momentum and not lose motivation on whatever goals we have at hand. Generally, this is excellent for just being enthusiastic and showcasing ourselves rather than remaining in the shadows. So it's excellent for stepping forward if you need to be seen, no matter what capacity in life that might be, whatever that might be in terms of your objectives. This could be about career. This could be about personal life goals. This could be about taking center stage for any arena you'd like to be seen in. Another thing in its regular format, it generally revs up passion, romance, playful escapades when it comes down to our romantic scenarios. and a ton of bedroom stamina, so it's anything but boring in this energy. Also, we tend to be adventure seeking within this pairing because it encourages us to be active participants in our lives, enjoy fun things, recreate, and truly get in touch with our playful side. But because we're getting this in more of a retrograde format currently right now in its pre-shadow format, this is a period of revisiting things that deal with Leo energy. So some of the topics that can come up that we'll be reevaluating has to do with casual dating, romance, neglected skills, tapping into our hidden creativity, doing inner child work, or anything to do with children, and seeking more than just the basic stuff in life. Overall, throughout this month, we're going to get our themes with this Mars and Leo, depending on how this is aspecting us in our charts. And a lot of these themes can signify crucial moments that we need to evaluate. When it comes to romance, maybe this is a period where we need to take more pride in ourselves. Maybe this is a period where we're realizing that we deserve better. This could be a time to reevaluate our confidence levels, whether we're needing to gain more confidence or work on a superiority complex. It could be a time to work on having an issue with being seen, or on the opposite end, it could be a time to really reevaluate why we need validation as much as we do. Once we get to the regular format of Mars and Leo, I will absolutely do a whole segment on it. At this point in time though, because it doesn't carry some of the energy it would typically do, I absolutely wanted to put it out there why this may not feel like Mars and Leo with its typical celebratory energy. But the signs that are going to be more affected by this portion of the retrograde is going to be the fixed modality. Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius, between 0 to 10 degrees of these zodiac placements. So if you have planets and chart points in these signs, you'll feel this more than others. And of course, once this planet goes retrograde, I will give an extended version of this, along with a more in-depth look of Mars in Cancer when it goes into that retrograde portion. Mars will enter its retrograde motion on December 6th at 6 degrees of Leo. And this planet will be back in its regular format on May 3rd of 2025. More retrograde vibes will occur with the Sun making a trine with Saturn. One thing to note, however, currently on this day, we still have that Sun Sesquiquadrate Neptune energy continuing. And so this is where we're seeing those psychic tones, and this may put a little bit of haze in the air. There may be moments of uncertainty. There may be some moodiness. However, with the Sun's connection to Saturn, it could help us stabilize these emotions. Anytime we have this semi-annual alignment with the Sun making a trine with Saturn, it marks the closing period of the retrograde motion. On the other side of the retrograde, of course, it marks the opening of the movement in its backward rotation. So on this side of it, this is our closing period. By the time we get to the 15th, this ring planet is going to station direct. But energy like this could give us the feel that there's something gradually lifting around us. In other words, it may give us this feel that we might have an opportunity to move past things that have been prolonged for a while, move past a bunch of blockages that have been limiting us. Of course, it's not to say that those things are happening on that day, but it might be a time where we're starting to feel confident about our direction and that we're able to regain momentum at some point once we're ready. Sometimes this can show up as feeling confident that we invested our time wisely on whatever projects, goals, and other objectives that we might have had, which could also boost our optimism, which you don't usually say optimism and Saturn in the same sentence, but with this particular energy that tends to happen. Energy like this encourages us to commit to positive actions and enhance our self-esteem and improve our organizational skills as well. Another way this can show up is feeling like we're getting a pat on the back for acting responsibly, taking accountability, acting maturely, exhibiting discipline in our lives, and also having clear boundaries. And by that, maybe we're starting to believe in ourselves again because we've set the right types of parameters for ourselves. And sometimes this could be people learning to respect your boundaries as well, even if they weren't okay with it at first. So hopefully this mitigates some of that Sun-Neptune energy because this is really stabilizing and helps us act constructively. Saturn will go direct on the 15th and it will exit its post-shadow on February 18th of 2025. The tone shifts a bit as we get to the 6th because we have some Mercury transits that can lead to a little bit of discomfort. Mercury is going to make an aspect with Chiron that can lead to harsh analysis of ourselves, others, and situations that trigger us. And as a result of that, we might be more demanding of ourselves. We may be highly critical of ourselves, especially if things aren't going perfectly or they're going in an unexpected direction. We might have moments where we're in our heads a bit about this. causing us to feel touchier than we usually do. Because of the nature of this transit, communication may not go the way we expect it. It's almost like interactions go the wrong way and of course lead to misunderstandings as a result of that and heightened emotions. Also, this could lead to a tendency to dwell, and this is another reason why we might be in our heads. Maybe we're rethinking about past events that happened and it's re-triggering us because we're dwelling on the wrong things, and it's causing us to focus on what we think might be our inadequacies or a lot of unresolved issues where maybe we had some embarrassment, no resolution, or no sort of closure in a situation. Also, energy like this could lead to just difficult processing when it comes down to thoughts, details, our communication with others, and also how we absorb data. Try to navigate this energy the best way you can through seeking effective coping mechanisms and other constructive methods that help you from looping in your mind. Once we get to the 8th, Mercury is going pre-shadow in the last Mercury retrograde of 2024. So this is the final one for this year, and it is fully in the sign of Sagittarius through this time. Last year, we had a Mercury retrograde coming up during this time in Capricorn and in Sagittarius. It went into the earlier degrees of Capricorn and the latter degrees of Sagittarius. But this time, it's fully in the sign of the Archer. This retrograde is going to have something of an interesting tone to them, as they all do. But I say this because Mercury happens to be in detriment when it's in Sagittarius. And so this retrograde might feel like it has more mishaps than typical. It's also going to make complicated aspects to Saturn. It's also going to make complicated aspects to Jupiter, along with hard connections to Neptune. So it's a period for having some limitations. It's a period of communication issues and technical mishaps. And not that we don't get those in Mercury retrogrades, but this being in its sign of detriment, it's going to be more keyed up than typical, and it making those alignments to those planets in particular, along with some other alignments it's going to make. Also, it's going to be retrograde while Mars is just beginning its retrograde. So this can feel like a very tense period because of that. When we got into September, it was talking about how Mars was going retrograde in tandem with Mercury retrograde at the end of the year. And so this happens to be one of the first ones. We also have a situation going on as we start getting closer to March, where Mercury and Venus will be retrograde as Mars is in its station. So certain things that might not get resolved during this Mercury retrograde could come up for review during those times, even though it will be in a different zodiac placement. But a retrograde in Sagittarius could have us revisiting issues with carelessness, overlooking essential details, failing to meet responsibilities, which falls under the umbrella of carelessness, intellectual snobbery, issues with perspective, issues with seeing the facts over your beliefs, issues with dogmatism, and also just speaking too bluntly. And when I say speaking too bluntly, putting your foot in your mouth. So this is definitely going to be an edgy period when we start really getting into some of the stuff that could happen during this retrograde. Of course, I'm going to expand upon this as we get to the end of November and talk more in length about how this retrograde might unfold for us. This retrograde is going to affect the mutable modality. Therefore, it's going to be Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces between 8 to 29 degrees of these placements. So if you have planets or chart points in these placements, you're going to feel this retrograde more than others. Mercury is going into retrograde on November 26th. It'll go direct December 15th and exit its post-shadow on January 3rd of 2025. Over the weekend, we have some Venus, Quincunx, Uranus energy going on, leading to some odd scenarios concerning relationships, finances, and other Venusian things. So here's the thing with this energy. We're dealing with a quincunx. A lot of the times with quincunxes, we deal with a lack of awareness, our blind spots, and other forms of self-sabotage we might be doing because we're not understanding our behavior and we're lacking that objectivity to see where we might be going wrong in a situation. And with a Venus-Uranus situation, it can show up as excitement-seeking behavior in relationships, the way we spend money, the way we adorn ourselves, what we value, our self-respect, our worth, even the things we consume for our enjoyment. And so this may bring to our awareness how we engage in these activities and situations, scenarios, relationships in an unconstructive way. It could bring up thrill-seeking antics in relationships that lead to instability, turmoil, and just really just upsetting a partner, trying to switch things up, and then it doesn't land right and it leads to coming off either eccentric or shocking someone. This could be romantic, and of course with it being Venus, it could be close relationships. Obviously you wouldn't be doing the odd romantic things when it comes to your close close relationships, but it could be just behavior that's just off-putting to people and we're not aware of it. And this brings to our awareness where we might need to fix that. This can bring to our attention carelessness when it comes down to the way we spend, our job situations, how we act professionally. So it could be a time where we're realizing we really need to get it together in that area. With Venus, it shows where we consume things, and a lot of the times that's food and other indulgences, especially sweet treats or, wine and spirits and those types of things, and it can show where we go overboard with that. I mean, if it was ever a weekend to go balls to the wall in terms of indulgences and overdoing it on drinking and anything else in excess, this would definitely bring up that type of energy. So it's something to be aware of with this. A lot of the times with these quincunxes, it is to bring to our attention the things that we should resolve and need to resolve. Sometimes it doesn't always go that way, but it does give us that nudge needed to work on our awareness of these behaviors. But yeah, as I said earlier, November, the first week, is definitely anything but boring. November is anything but boring. These months have been anything but boring with all the dynamic transits that we have occurring. So try to navigate all of these energies the best way you can. And I hope you all have the most constructive week ever. Later, and see you in the next episode.